You need fantasy football help, and that's why we are here for you with the Week 12 fantasy playoffs right around the corner. You hear that? Week 12 waiver wire show. It is the audible Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and it is quarterback. We start with full report available, upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report at footballguys.com. But Trevor Lawrence not getting shut down for the year. Sigmund, what's the latest here?
Yeah, and you gotta wonder, as we're seeing more teams maybe make choices that benefit their draft pick more than the fan base's chances of seeing a win in any given week. But Trevor Lawrence, the word is he's gonna be back. He didn't have surgery on the non-throwing shoulder. It is the non-throwing shoulder. And you wonder if you're gonna showcase him for the next coach, because that's how you're gonna get a good coach to come to Jacksonville. The other thing you're gonna like if he's back is after Houston coming up in week 13. You've got Tennessee, the Jets, Las Vegas, and Tennessee again. So that's a pretty good schedule, even if he doesn't have Christian Kirk, even if he doesn't have Gabe Davis. He's got Brian Thomas. That might be enough. And of course, remember, Trevor Lawrence also can take off and run. And maybe he also might feel unburdened if the Jags make a move at head coach before the end of the season.
Yeah, and what's curious, not that we've heard of any riff between the two, but it's like, does a fresh start just make Lawrence feel free, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
right? Like he's just going to be out there slinging it. And with that schedule and with Brian Thomas, I mean, think of it that way. We usually think of it in the opposite way. Like, well, if you
hmm
get Xavier Worthy, you get a piece of Pat Mahomes. Well, if you get Trevor Lawrence, you get a piece of Brian Thomas, Bloom. I like that idea.
Yeah, and a team that's gonna be playing from behind, and we'll see. I think that we can all agree that we haven't gotten to see anything remotely like what the best version of Trevor Lawrence in the NFL would look like, and hopefully he'll get a head coach next year that can get him there.
Tommy DeVito's going to start for the Giants. Not Drew Lock. What's going on here?
Yeah, hey, he has see, is there a player with a larger cult following as far as a regional cult following in the NFL? I don't think it's even close. I don't think it's even close. I was out at the farmer's market a couple weeks ago, and I saw a family in Giants jerseys, and the little boy, had a Devito jersey on. Dad bought it for him with the hopes that Tommy Cutlets would get a chance to start again. And here we are. And if you think this is because they're tanking, you might be right. It might be because of Drew Lock's incentives, but also they are 4-5 when DeVito starts. You might argue that DeVito actually won out of a spot to get Drake May or Jaden Daniels last year. So very curious. DeVito, a game competitor. He had a few decent fantasy performances, certainly in 2 quarterback super flex leagues. You're going to pick him up as any starting quarterback. 6 teams on bye this week. You might be starting Tommy DeVito. And hey, going up against Tampa Bay, maybe he could pull out another win, much to the dismay of the fan base, except that part of the fan base that loves him because he's a local kid.
He's beloved, that's for sure. Anybody else at
I
quarterback?
mean, Anthony Richardson, if he's still out there in very shallow bench leagues, you're going to use up everything you have for the number one waiver priority. Jameis Winston plays the Steelers this week. He has some tough matchups. And again, thinking about teams and their logic about losing is winning when it comes to draft picks. Will we see Dorian Thompson Robinson at some point? We'll see. Gardner Minshew, at least for now, is some emergency depth. We'll see when Aiden O'Connell is going to be back. But yeah, the quarterback churn is starting to slow down. And see, so we're seeing Bo Nix level off as a quarterback one, Matthew Stafford level off as a quarterback one. So we actually may not need the quarterback waiver wire down the stretch if, knock on wood, we don't get big injuries.
Yeah, let's get to the running back position and Dylan Laube. Yeah, Matt Waldman favorite. New Hampshire, everybody. Dylan Laube leads off the running back position. Pretty sure he's out there, Bloom.
Yeah, there's some Danny Woodhead to his game.
Sure.
And Alexander Madison is hurt. Samir White is hurt. Madison's probably hurt worse than White. Now, if White can play, then maybe you scratch this one. But if White can't play, Amir Abdullah probably will keep a passing down job. And in the preseason, at least, Laube was a 3-down back. So if there's any hint there of how they see Laube or what they would do if injuries put that running back depth chart in play, why not Dylan Laube? And he also can be someone who racks up some catches out of the backfield. So again, it's strange this year how quiet it has been on the waiver wire, but maybe Laube can make some noise.
maybe it'll be allowed be out there. But you mentioned
Mm.
Danny Woodhead Bloom, and he's a Matt Waldman favorite, Laube.
Mhm.
Not you. You know, we haven't talked about him a whole lot on this show. Usually the smaller backs, you get, you know, your Darren Sproles. Sigmund
Right.
Bloom loves him some Darren Sproles. Who's the Oregon
Tariq
State guy?
Cohen,
Tariq Cohen, you're right.
Jaquiz
Who's
Rogers,
Jaquiz? Yes, Rogers, right? We haven't talked about that.
Lorenzo Booker.
Are you keeping something from me? I know
No.
we compete in a league together, but like
Well, hey,
the
Devin Achan is now carrying the standard for the undersized running back, or Jahmyr Gibbs,
okay.
being true fantasy studs. And in Achan's case, they're using him like a lead back. So we are seeing the body type that can be a lead back change depending on the coach, depending on the philosophy. And again, the Raiders saw Laube as a 3-down back in the preseason. Maybe they will if they need him in the regular season.
All right. You mentioned Achan. Let's talk about his backfield mate,
Yeah.
Jaylen Wright, also with a bunch of speed.
And it looks like there's a combination here of Raheem Mostert getting a little banged up, and Wright is probably the primary backup as a runner. Maybe Mostert does a little more in the passing game. So if Achane goes down, Jaylen Wright's the guy you want. And this is the part of the cavalcade of backup running backs. If you've been listening to this show, if you've been subscribing to Football Guys over the years, you know at this time of year, we recommend as many backup running backs as possible. And again, I'm going to go over this because you can put together your own ranking, okay? But the 4 elements of ranking a backup running back are the quality of the offense, the quality of the back, is there clarity in terms of who gets the touches if the starter goes down? And then what are the possibilities of the starter going down? Is part starter been on the injury report? What is their injury history? So in no particular order, here's some of the guys you need to be looking at, okay? Cam Akers, and he scored. And also, by the way, we saw Aaron Jones just getting banged up. Trey Benson coming off a bye.
Looking good.
Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins got the touchdown to get the win, but Gus Edwards maybe a little fresher. Roschon Johnson and Bears offense looking a little better. They even said that split 14 carries for Swift, 10 for Johnson is about what they're looking for. So Johnson could have a little standalone value because of his goal line work. Blake Corum, of course, and Jerome Ford. And Jerome Ford has a little bit of standalone value just because he's the passing down back, and you don't know if there's going to be a lot of Nick Chubb game scripts. So, and there are others, of course. This is not an exhaustive list, but when you look at your bench, you should have enough depth to get you through bye weeks. And take a look at your starter, quarterback, tight end. Make sure that if you've if your starter is Jaden Daniels, if your starter is Anthony Richardson, if your starter is a quarterback that we're a little worried about, I guess we're worried about every tight end in theory, then you might need to carry a backup. You might need to carry 1 or 2 backup wide receivers, but otherwise, you need those backup running backs.
I love Marshawn Lloyd.
Sure.
I love him. I love him. I love him. Him or Benson were my number 1 running back this year. Lloyd, I had slightly ahead of Benson, but Benson's looked really good. I anticipate if he got an opportunity, again, crazy deep bench,
Yeah.
whatever dynasty, yeah, you're gonna go Marshawn Lloyd. And then the elephant in the room, Bloom,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around here in the Mile High City. Don't trust any Broncos back with what happened with Javonte and Audric Estime, and Jaleel just doesn't get anything, but maybe he gets something. I don't know because, well, Joe Lombardi and Sean Payton said they'd ride the hot hand. So I know we might get a few Javonte Williams questions after his game, but as Lombardi said last week, hey, if some guy produces, I'm going to keep giving him the ball. And that's it. And first up, it was Javonte. Their first 3 drives had 3 different backs in for the entire drive. So it's better instead of playing that like whack-a-mole game, Bloom.
Right, right.
It's probably best to avoid maybe sabotage drop. I don't know, but it's a complicated situation and it's frustrating for fantasy jams out there. We just dropped Javonte and picked up Audric
Right,
Estime.
right. Well, look, if you get a good game out of a Broncos running back in your lineup, it's just luck, okay? And at this point in the season, we don't rely on luck.
Yes. Rely on skill. Like Curtis Samuel relies on his skill, and there's more there. Like the things that you saw in week 11, it's just the tip of the iceberg with Samuel. Let's talk about him as we go to the wide receivers.
And he's the most physically gifted receiver they have, by the way, in terms of just pure measurables and what he can do. And you could see it. You can see him separating. You can see the speed. Remember, he has the speed to be a deep threat. And it looks like he's over the turf toe that got us off of him going into the season. You think for a speed receiver, that's going to be an issue, but it wasn't an issue. And yes, Dalton Kincaid was out. Yes, Keon Coleman is out. But it looks like Curtis Samuel is going to be ahead of Amari Cooper for targets, for snaps. And now he is realizing the value. Remember, he had his best season, arguably, with Joe Brady back in Carolina. So it's pretty exciting to think of what Curtis Samuel can do, partially because Josh Allen is playing so well. He's really, I think he's playing as well as we've seen him in his career, and that's a high bar.
Yeah.
So Allen's going to harvest whatever value there is in Samuel, and there appears to be some, and it's growing going forward.
Growing and a going. How about Kendrick Bourne and another group of wide receivers here, Blue?
Yeah, and Bourne only played about half of the snaps, but Drake May is developing some good chemistry with him. And Bourne is the guy, along with Demario Douglas, who's going to be the more reliable target for getting uncovered, maybe not necessarily making big plays. So, and we can go down the list again. I would probably rank the three receivers for the Patriots: Douglas, and then Bourne, and then Butte. All three worth a roster spot in typical leagues. Alec Pierce needs to get back in our consideration here with Anthony Richardson slinging it downfield. Elijah Moore making a real nice toe tap touchdown. Jameis Winston is going to fill the air with footballs. Christian Watson might have been dropped. And you saw Jordan Love don't care. He's going to throw into double coverage. He's going to find Christian Watson downfield. Quentin Johnston, not a massive fantasy game, but got 8 targets. And Justin Herbert is dealing, well, at least for a half he was. Jalen Coker coming off a bye you might want to look at. Marcus Valdez-Scantling, why not? I mean, he's on a bye. So again, some of these guys, depends on the roster crunch. The same thing goes for Curtis Samuel, but these are also players you might see passed over because they're on bye. So keep them in your sights.
Yes, and as Bo Nix turns into a top 10 fantasy quarterback, Devon Vele, deeper leagues, and Josh
Mhm.
Reynolds' return maybe this week might cut
Right.
into Vele, but you're seeing the chemistry that was there from rookie minicamp. He's got better chemistry than he does with Troy Franklin, his college teammate. So it is a Broncos show. No Broncos tight end to talk about, of course.
Right. Nate Atkins.
But Will Disley is kicking things off at the tight end position, not just a blocker, now with
No.
even more receiving ability, like he showed his first game of his pro career.
Right. That's the interesting thing about Disley is he was drafted based on everybody's analysis as a blocking tight end, but showed a lot more physical talent and skill as a receiver than anyone expected, made big plays. And remember, this guy's come back from 2 catastrophic injuries. So he's fitting in well. You're seeing his snaps go down a little bit, but targets and converting those targets into plays, especially against the Bengals. Start your tight ends against the Bengals. They're on bye, so there's nobody to pick up this week for that. But yeah, Will Disley, why not getting on the Justin Herbert train? And look, as an aside, uh, look at the preseason analysis, and I might have been guilty of this as much as anybody. Well, we know that Harbaugh and Roman are going to want to run the ball. Oh, Justin Herbert has a foot injury. Now they're especially going to want to run the ball. This is going to be a boring offense. Not a boring offense, not a boring Justin Herbert, who now looks like he could be a top 5, top 7 quarterback the rest of the way and bring some players like Disley with him.
The nice thing about Harbaugh is they have that foundation. You know what I mean? We want to run the ball, and I think we all were saying that, Bloom. So
Yeah.
raise your hand. Guilty is charged. But let's like uh Harbaugh's excited. Roman is excited on everything they can build off of that ground game because of that quarterback. Let's talk about Cole Kmet, and hey, just get rid of Shane Waldron.
Right.
Unleash the offense and Cole Kmet there to reap the rewards.
Yeah, and Gerald Everett. Remember, he's been now what 3 straight stops, these 2 stops with Waldron. And Cole Kmet snaps go up. Not a big fantasy game, but you're seeing this offense exhale, relax a little bit. Obviously, they're going to be frustrated after they lost, how they lost. There was a stat out there, sees Caleb Williams has led 2 game-winning drives and his team lost both games, which is ties your brain linguistically in knots, but it's
Mhm.
a true statement. It's a true statement in the sense that, hey, Caleb is doing what he's supposed to be doing to make this a winning team at this point. He did it obviously in the Hail Mary game, but he also did it in this game. So that may include Cole Kmet in the end zone. And you're just seeing him as one of the many players who are both being freed and used in a more appropriate way with Thomas Brown.
Mm-mm-mm. All right. And that's about it for tight end.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Because it's
so
tight end.
well, and the churn is starting to slow down because we have, dare I say, after the rough first 3 weeks we had at the position, we have more than 12 starting options. Hey, Taysom Hill, everybody, we have more than 12 starting options now. So it's a good thing there aren't a lot of options bubbling up on the waiver wire because we don't really need them.
Yeah. Well, you do need the next segment, and we need you to join in with us. The audience participation that we often mention on this program because it's right before the fantasy playoffs. Now, we got a couple of weeks in most leagues, Bloom, but depending on when they start, like we're talking 2 weeks, basically, maybe a week, again, depending on your league setup, maybe 3 weeks. But either way, we're here. We're now, we're looking for windows, and we're looking to shut the window on some. So, in that mindset, you need to get this out there. So, please help us and join in if you can, and then let us know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. How you did this, and saying it and screaming it to the heavens. It is time to cue the Chuck D. Sigmund, week 12, shut him downs.
Yeah, I'm shutting down a lot of players this week. Like you said, Cease, the window's getting smaller of potential usefulness. So you should have a little itchy trigger finger when it comes time to make these drops. Like Daniel Jones, obviously, Raheem Mostert, Alexander Madison, Tyjae Spears. We talked about the Denver running backs. Maybe Javonte Williams is a sabotage drop. Certainly, Audric Estime, nobody is going to get caught trying to kick that football that Lucy is holding. Ricky Pearsall depends on the depth. I don't know if Deebo Samuel can stay healthy. Maybe he's more of a hold on. And Mike Gesicki. Here's the one that is difficult. Sabotage drops. Listen, all y'all. Jaylen Waddle.
Sabotage drop? Yeah,
You know, if you, again, it's just like the Denver running backs. If Jaylen Waddle has a big game, you got lucky because it's
But
not
with
just
Waddle, you took him in what, the second
second
round?
round. Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, how can you feel comfortable playing him? Yeah, it's New England. Maybe you'll get lucky. But then you're probably going to be induced to playing him the next week, and he's not going to do anything. The problem with Jaylen Waddle is that Jonnu Smith is more involved. Malik Washington is more involved. Odell Beckham is getting targets. Okay, Tyreek Hill is still going to be the number one target. This team is still going to run the ball. So I'm looking at Jaylen Waddle, and obviously when I write, again, subscribe to Football Guys, you'll get the full waiver wire report. I'm not going to say drop Jaylen Waddle for just anybody. Honestly, this week, you're probably only dropping Jaylen Waddle for Anthony Richardson, and I don't know that anybody else seems that compelling. But when you put the sabotage drop spin on it, then, and this could be one of those things where you put the word out to the league, I'm going to trade him for anybody that is interested. Otherwise, I'm going to release him. I know that doesn't do a lot for the trade market, but I do think that Jaylen Waddle is just going to drive us crazy at this point. And structurally, sees when it was just Hill and Waddle, okay, I see how he can get there. But when it's Hill and Waddle and Washington and Smith and Beckham, how's he going to get there?
Yeah. Yep. Now, on the opposite side of that, we have our hold on segment because some players you want around for the fantasy playoffs. Maybe you want to win a ring with Jaylen Waddle.
Sure.
Maybe you just want to hold on. Who are those players? Week 12.
Just a few. And Ricky Pearsall might be one. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still a hold for now. I think he's still a hold for now. Going up against Carolina this week might not take much. I still think he's way favored over Juju Smith-Schuster. And it looked like, at least for this game, Travis Kelce faded into the background. So I wouldn't be too hasty dropping a wide receiver of his skill with Patrick Mahomes. Tucker Kraft, I know he was held off of the score sheet, 17 pass attempts, but Jordan Love actually played pretty well. And we'll see if this week against San Francisco, they have to pass more than 17 times. What I like about Tucker Kraft is he can be a big play tight end after the catch. He can make a skilled play. And, we've seen he doesn't need a lot of targets to come through for you. I think he's actually one of the only tight ends to have 2 weeks as the number one tight end. the only one, maybe. I don't know. Don't quote me on that, but quote me on this. Tucker Kraft probably isn't done for fantasy football this year.
That is correct. It is a wrap for the program. We certainly appreciate you all for listening, for subscribing here on YouTube. So make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Subscribe to all of our YouTube channels, plural, the Dynasty channel, Football Guys Fantasy Football channel. We appreciate you all for that as well. And as Sigmund points out, there might be videos popping up
Yeah,
around
something.
here
Help us out.
somewhere. I don't know. We're silly. Follow Bloom on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show's at The Audible saying, do this. Stay frosty as well.